Have you ever caught yourself thinking that something in a relationship feels wrong, yet you couldn't quite put it into words? There may be no loud arguments, no obvious hostility. Everything on the surface looks normal. But inside, a quiet unease begins to grow, a subtle feeling that the ground is slipping from under your feet. And it is precisely in those moments that the first red flags start to appear. A red flag is not always about drama or explosive scenes. More often, it is about small details that are easy to dismiss as personality quirks, coincidences, or just a bad day. Yet it is exactly from these details that a bigger picture is formed, a picture that shows something is off when you are around this person. In psychology, such signs are often called warning signals, or more commonly today, simply red flags. And if we look deeper, through the lens of Carl Jung's archetypal language, a red flag can be seen as a glimpse of the shadow, the hidden side of personality breaking through the carefully constructed mask. Today, we will explore the 15 most common red flags in relationships. These signals may look small at first glance, but they are exactly the signs that can help you see the truth before it becomes too late. The first red flag is devaluation disguised as jokes. This is one of the most subtle signs because at first it may seem like nothing more than playful humor or a friendly tease. But the difference between a light-hearted joke and a remark that undermines you is felt immediately. It leaves an unpleasant aftertaste in your body, like someone stepped over your feelings. Imagine you share something meaningful. Today my boss praised me at work, and in return you hear with a smirk, "Well, I guess they just couldn't find anyone better." Or you express your emotions and hear, "You're exaggerating again." Outwardly, it sounds like a joke, but inside it plants doubt. Maybe I really am too sensitive? And little by little, with these tiny needles of humor, your confidence starts to weaken. The second red flag is lack of responsibility. True maturity is revealed in the ability to admit mistakes. But with someone who avoids accountability, you start to notice a strange pattern. No matter what happens, it is never their fault. Missed a payment on the bills? You distracted me. Arrived late to an important meeting? You gave me the wrong time. Even when the explanations sound absurd, they are spoken so confidently that you begin to look for mistakes in yourself. Over time, you stop expecting apologies because they simply never come, and this is not a small thing. It's a major red flag, showing that all the difficulties in the relationship will eventually be placed on your shoulders. The third red flag is excessive jealousy and control. Jealousy is often disguised as care. "I just worry about you," or "I don't want anything to happen to you." But behind those words lies the desire to control your every step. At first, it may look like checking your posts or likes on social media. Then come the questions. Who were you with? Why didn't you reply right away? And soon it escalates into checking your phone, your messages, or expecting constant reports of where you are and who you are with. Notice the difference. Genuine care brings peace of mind, while control only creates tension and the feeling that you are not trusted. That is not love. That is fear of losing control. The fourth red flag is words that don't match actions. Here the focus is not on what is said, but on what is actually done. Words can be the sweetest. "You are the most important person to me. I'll always be there for you. You are my only one." But if in reality he forgets your birthday, cancels meetings that matter to you, or simply doesn't show up when he promised, that is a mismatch. For example, he sends you a message saying, "You are my sunshine." But in the evening, he disappears instead of being present with you. You end up in a situation where his promises and his actions live in different worlds. And every time, the same feeling lingers inside, that you are not truly a priority, no matter how beautiful the words may sound. Another red flag is ignoring boundaries. Boundaries define your sense of self. It could be a request like, "I need some time alone," or "Please don't text me while I'm working." But when such words are not taken seriously, it becomes a warning signal. He may react with hurt, "I just wanted to talk. Why are you being so cold?" Or with blame, "You're distancing yourself on purpose." As a result, every no you say turns into a reason for pressure. You either end up explaining endlessly, or you give in and do what he wants. But each time your boundaries are ignored, a piece of your freedom slips away. And over time, you may even stop trying to defend yourself. The next one is constant comparison with others. At first glance, it may sound like a harmless remark. "Look how her career is going. Why don't you take notes?" Or, "My ex was a better cook." But comparisons never work in your favor. They always diminish what you bring to the table. Think about it. If you proudly shared your project or a new hobby, and in response you heard, "Well, yes, but look how others do it better," what would remain inside you? Joy turns into unease, into the sense that you are not enough. Constant comparisons create an environment where instead of support, you feel competition. And in close relationships, this is destructive. You come for warmth and acceptance, but instead you are given an endless exam that you can never pass. A very common red flag is gaslighting. This term has become familiar, but many still don't realize how damaging its impact can be. Gaslighting is not about loud arguments, but about the quiet distortion of reality. For example, you say, "Yesterday you were distant with me." And hear in response, "You imagined it? I was completely normal." Or you recall a harsh remark, and he replies with a smile, "You must have misheard." At first, it leaves you puzzled. But over time, you begin to doubt your memory, your feelings, your perception of reality itself. And one day you catch yourself apologizing, not for what you did, but simply for bringing up something uncomfortable. That is the power of gaslighting. When someone makes you lose trust in yourself. The eighth red flag is isolation from friends and family. This red flag rarely shows up all at once. More often, it begins with small things. "Why do you need to see them? Spend time with me instead," or "Your friends are a bad influence on you." At first, it sounds like care or maybe even jealousy. But gradually, your circle of support shrinks. You see your friends less, you call your family less, and eventually, you realize you are almost alone. And this is exactly the goal of a controlling partner. The less support you have, the easier it is to keep you under influence. Real love never fears your connections with others. It respects them and supports them. Isolation, on the other hand, is a way to take away your foundation. The ninth red flag is financial control or exploitation. Money in relationships is always a sensitive subject. But as one of the clearest red flags is when time, energy, and resources flow only one way. He may borrow money and forget to return it, or rely on your connections, your efforts, your resources, without giving anything back. Sometimes it sounds soft. "You know, I'm just going through a tough period." But if that period lasts for months or even years, and you never see reciprocity, then you are being used. Financial control can also appear when your every purchase is questioned, while his own expenses are never up for discussion. This creates an imbalance that sooner or later leads to dependency, and dependency is never the same as a healthy relationship. Another red flag is silent treatment. Silence can sometimes be louder than shouting. This tactic is often used as a form of punishment. Imagine, you had a disagreement, you are waiting for a conversation, but in return, only silence. Your messages stay unread, your calls go ignored, and even in the same room, he may deliberately distance himself. You are left in a suspended state, where you start to feel guilty for the conflict, even if you objectively did nothing wrong. Silent treatment is especially draining because it eliminates the chance for dialogue. When there are no words, there are no explanations. And in that silence, your anxiety only grows. What did I do wrong? In a healthy relationship, conflicts are solved through conversation, not through cold withdrawal. The next one is unpredictable mood swings. One day he may be affectionate and warm, ready to listen, joke, and support you. And the next day he suddenly becomes distant, cold, as if you don't even exist. At the same time, you get no explanation. Everything's fine, I'm just tired. Or, you're imagining things. These emotional swings act like a hook. In moments of warmth, you feel relief and gratitude, while in moments of coldness, you feel anxiety and the urge to earn his attention again. Eventually, you find yourself caught in a system of rewards and withdrawals, where you never know what tomorrow will bring. True closeness is built on stability, not on turning someone's emotions into a roller coaster ride. A very common red flag is playing the victim. Every time you point out a problem or express dissatisfaction, he immediately takes the role of the one who is suffering. I do everything for you, and you're so ungrateful. You have no idea how hard it is for me. And just like that, the focus shifts. It is no longer about your concern, but about you feeling guilty for even bringing it up. This tactic eliminates the possibility of a real conversation. Whatever you say turns back on you as an accusation. Over time, you speak up less and less about what bothers you, just to avoid another wave of complaints. But silence in such cases is not compromise. It is simply another way to lose your voice. The 13th red flag is competition instead of support. Imagine you share your success, talk about a promotion, a new project, or even a small joy. Instead of hearing, "Well done, I'm proud of you," you hear, "That's nothing. Let me tell you about my achievements." Or he instantly shifts the topic to himself. Rather than celebrating with you, he treats it like a competition. Over time, you stop sharing your experiences because you know that instead of support, you will face comparison. In a healthy relationship, your joy becomes shared joy. There is no competition for who is better. There is the desire to strengthen one another. The 14th red flag is double standards. This red flag is especially damaging because it makes the rules feel unfair. He may demand honesty, openness, and respect from you, while easily allowing himself to hide messages, show up late without warning, or disregard agreements. And if you bring it up, you immediately hear excuses or are blamed yourself. The paradox is obvious. You are not allowed, but he is. Double standards create a constant sense of injustice, and the longer they continue, the more trust erodes. Relationships where rules apply only one way inevitably become exhausting. Finally, the 15th red flag, a very common one, is the constant feeling that something is wrong with you. This is perhaps the clearest and most alarming signal. You may not always notice specific words or actions, but what remains is the general feeling. Whenever you are with this person, you constantly feel guilty, anxious, or not good enough. Every conversation ends with self-doubt. Maybe I overreacted? Maybe the problem is me? Over time, such thoughts take root deeply, weakening your self-esteem and creating an inner belief that you will never be enough. But here it is vital to remember. Healthy relationships never leave you with a lasting sense of guilt or inadequacy. If being around someone consistently makes you feel that something is wrong with you, that is not your nature. That is a red flag. When we talk about red flags, it is important to understand that these are not just everyday signals or random signs of an unsuccessful relationship. In the language of symbols, they act as an archetypal sign of danger, a kind of ancient marker that triggers something deep inside us, warning. Here is something that threatens your inner balance. Jung spoke of the persona, that social mask a person wears to appear acceptable and attractive to others. And the red flag often shows itself at the very moment when the mask begins to crack and the shadow breaks through. That hidden part of the personality filled with suppressed motives, envy, the urge to dominate, or the need to secretly hold power. These flags are like cracks on a polished surface. On the outside, everything looks perfectly fine. The mask remains beautiful, tidy, even charming. But then, suddenly, what has been carefully hidden begins to seep through. The shadow that reveals true motives and shows that behind the facade of perfection lies something entirely different. Symbolically, this is the moment of collision with reality. We no longer see the picture created for the audience, but instead we catch a glimpse of fragments of the person's authentic inner world. And here we must ask, why do we so often fail to respond to these signals? Why do we dismiss the flag with phrases like, "It's just a coincidence, he had a hard day," or "Maybe I'm being too sensitive"? The answer lies not only in our personal vulnerability, but also in collective conditioning. We live in cultures where, from childhood, we are taught to endure, to justify, and to excuse the behavior of others. Families often pass down patterns. Be a good girl, don't argue, keep the peace at any cost. These ingrained messages create a habit of closing our eyes even when the inner alarm bell is already ringing. Jung described this as an encounter with the shadow, not only someone else's, but also our own. We often resist admitting that we are in a harmful situation because doing so requires courage. Courage to see our own weaknesses, to acknowledge the compromises we've made with ourselves. That is why the psyche reaches for its defenses. Denial, minimization, rationalization. A red flag is rebranded as just a quirk, a character trait, and we continue walking forward as if nothing happened. But the symbolic meaning of the flag is that it always points to a threshold. It is a sign of transition. If you ignore it, you step deeper into the realm of shadow, where domination, guilt, and erosion of self become the norm. If you acknowledge it, however, that becomes the first step toward awareness. And it is precisely here, in that moment, that the possibility of rewriting the script appears. To stop continuing the old story imposed by society or childhood experiences, and instead choose a new path, one where your feelings and your boundaries are honored as they deserve to be. When we talk about red flags, it is crucial to remember this. Genuine closeness is never built on anxiety, doubt, or constant excuses. Love, in its truest sense, is something that gives strength, expands the space around you, and makes life feel brighter and freer. But when a relationship turns into a daily search for what you supposedly did wrong, when you find yourself constantly thinking, maybe there's something wrong with me, that is not love, but a cycle that drains your energy drop by drop, like water slipping through cracks in a vessel. This is the moment to pause and ask yourself honestly, which of these red flags have I already seen in my own experience? How many times have I explained away the very things that made me uneasy, calling them little quirks or coincidences? Sometimes admitting this truth is harder than leaving physically, because it is not just about walking away. It is about making an inner decision to stop deceiving yourself and to call things by their real names. And that very recognition becomes a turning point. As long as we close our eyes, the story keeps repeating. But the moment we begin to see clearly, we gain the power to move differently. Jung wrote that an encounter with the shadow is not a punishment, but an invitation to growth. Red flags can be seen in the same way as invitations. They reveal the moments where we step over ourselves, where we allow someone else's mask to dictate our reality. And the moment we start trusting our own feelings again, step by step, we reclaim our inner ground. And the small seeds within us push through the darkness, opening up new horizons. So here is a simple practice I invite you to try today. Look back at your own experience and notice which of these signals have already appeared in your life. Maybe you remember a dismissive joke that stayed with you. Maybe you recall silence where there should have been dialogue. Maybe you noticed that the joy of your achievement was turned into someone else's competition. Write these moments down for yourself, honestly and without self-blame. This is not weakness. This is the strength to see and acknowledge the truth. And always remember, clarity begins with the smallest step. The moment you recognize a red flag, you are no longer trapped in illusions. You reclaim your right to your own boundaries, to peace of mind, and to the kind of love that truly supports you. Real love does not confuse, does not quietly wear you down, and does not strip you of your sense of self. It helps you stand strong in who you are.